Well, welcome to Torah Tuesday. Today we have Genesis 29 and 30. There is plenty of plot going on in today's reading, so we're going to have to move through it quickly. Firstly, Jacob, as we saw last week, he's on the run from his brother who's looking to kill him, away from his family, to Padan Aram, where his uncle lives. He's been sent there by his mum. And as soon as he arrives there, he sees his cousin Rachel, and he falls in love with her pretty much immediately. We're told that she's beautiful, and Jacob goes to kiss her. And quickly he finds his way back to his uncle's house, Laban. Now, Laban, we have already met in the story. Back in Genesis 24, when Abraham's servant was sent back to Padan Aram to find Isaac a wife, even back then, we get a kind of hint that Laban is a bit of a dodgy guy. He is greedy and he is conniving. He becomes very interested back in chapter 24 in Abraham's servant when he sees that he has a lot of wealth. And Laban quickly invites this man into their home when he realizes that they might be able to get rich by being associated with this servant of Abraham. He says, "Come, you who are blessed by the Lord. Why are you standing out here? I have prepared the house and a place for the camels." And so he welcomes this man in, and you start to get the idea that Laban is maybe a dodgy character who likes to use people to get his own way, which is what we're going to see happen today. And we have, like I said, similar thing happen here. Jacob turns up, Isaac's son, and Laban is right out to meet him. And we are told that Jacob tells Laban, maybe in his ignorance, he tells Laban all these things, it says, presumably meaning Jacob tells Laban everything that has occurred so far in his life and how he is coming to their place because he's on the run from his brother whose blessing he has stolen. So Jacob tells Laban that he bears the blessing of Isaac, which Laban knows means that Jacob is going to be a wealthy and powerful person. So Laban hears this info, and we're going to find out that he uses it against Jacob. And then we hear about two other siblings, two that we haven't met before. So far we've had Cain and Abel, we've had Isaac and Ishmael, we've had Jacob and Esau, and now we meet Rachel and Leah, the first sisters in the story. And Rachel is younger and beautiful, while Leah is older and she has weak eyes. So she's not beautiful like her sister is. And Jacob quickly falls in love with Rachel, and so Laban sees his opportunity to take advantage of Jacob. Jacob agrees to work for Laban for 7 years in order to marry Rachel. But he says the description is that those 7 years seemed like only a few days to him. Such was his love for Rachel. And then on their wedding day is when Laban strikes. 7 years into planning and plotting how he's going to take advantage of this man. And he takes advantage on the wedding day. His tactics sound familiar. He throws a party, presumably serving Jacob quite a lot of wine, as would have been the case in parties. And then in the darkness of the night, he sneaks Rachel's sister, Leah, into the tent with Jacob. And Jacob doesn't recognize who it is because there's a dark tent and he's had a bit to drink. And so he consummates the marriage with Leah, not with Rachel. And in the hung-over haze of the morning, he wakes up and, as it says, behold, there was Leah. In the darkness of a tent, under the influence of wine, Laban has taken advantage of Jacob, and Jacob is outraged. And then Laban says something to Jacob, and I think you can see the wheels, just the processing happen. Jacob has this moment of realization when he hears what Laban says to him. Laban says, "It is not our custom for the younger to go ahead of the older." He's talking about in marriage, but when Jacob hears that, he's thinking, that's exactly what I did to my brother. I put myself ahead of my older brother. Jacob did to Esau exactly, and he did to Esau and he did to Isaac exactly the same thing that Laban has now done to him. Use the darkness of a tent in the middle of the night under the influence of alcohol to fool someone. Jacob realizes that he is receiving his just desserts for the way he deceived his father. He fooled his dad in exactly the same way that Laban is now fooling him. Ooh, the plot, it's so good. And so Laban forces a deal to get another 7 years of labor out of Jacob. Like I said, he's only looking out for his own interests, this Laban. But this time, it doesn't feel like only a few days for Jacob. It feels every bit like 7 years, which suggests that there is some kind of bitterness that Jacob is holding on to, and he is looking to get his own revenge against his uncle, which we actually see happen in the end of chapter 30 if you keep reading. Anyway, the next bit that we read is about the birth of the 12 sons, well, the 11 sons, who will become the 12 tribes of Israel. We don't yet have Benjamin because he's born a little bit later in the story. But the main thing that I want to comment on in this part of the story is the sibling rivalry that we see, not between Jacob and Esau. This time the sibling rivalry is between Rachel and Leah. It's not the first time we've seen sibling rivalry. Like I said, we see it happen repeatedly since the fall. Cain and Abel, Isaac and Ishmael, Jacob and Esau, and now we have some sisters to carry on that trend as well. Here's what the issue is. Rachel and Leah both have what the other one wants. So Rachel is loved by Jacob, but she cannot bear children, which Leah can bear children, but she ultimately wants to be loved by Jacob, and he does not love her. And so each of the sisters has what the other sister wants. That's the point of their tension. And the 12 men who become the 12 tribes of Israel are born from these women. And when you think about it, their origin story is really, it's pretty bleak. You know, if you heard about a family like this, you would be calling the Department of Community Services, because what do we have here? We have a loveless marriage between Jacob and Leah. We have problematic births. We have deception, we have polygamy, we have intense sibling rivalry, and we have the children being wrapped up in this sibling rivalry of their parents. It's all chaos. But the amazing thing is that God is working through this chaos to bring about his purposes. It is the people of God who come from the chaotic situation between Jacob and Rachel and Leah. It's what we've seen again and again in Genesis. When there is darkness and bleakness and chaos, God works out his goodness. And even though Jacob didn't love Leah and didn't want Leah, God is not so unkind to her. In fact, God chooses the child of Leah to be the seed of the Messiah, because Jesus was born from the line of Judah, who is a descendant of Leah. Leah is loved and she's welcomed into God's family. She becomes the matriarch of the Messiah. So God's love for Leah is there even when Jacob's love for her is not. That's today. It's an amazing part of the story. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Have a good day.